seorang-seorang, semuanya ada nama dan gambar masing-masing. Tapi saya rasa seronok sebab dapat bercakap dengan pelajar-pelajar saya walaupun saya macam bercakap seorang-seorang. Hari ini kita buat trial run sikit sebelum kita nak mulakan kelas kita 1 Jun nanti, dan kemungkinan kelas kita akan macam ni lah rupanya. Okay, mungkin satu hari saya akan berjumpa macam ni dalam 1 minggu, ataupun dalam minggu seterusnya kita tak akan berjumpa macam ni. Saya just hantar nota dengan video, dan ada yang dengan video dan ada yang dengan audio. Jadi semua tu saya buat bukan sebab saya tak nak jumpa korang seorang-seorang dalam Zoom ke, dalam Microsoft Team ke, tapi disebabkan mungkin ada yang ada kekangan data untuk live session setiap minggu. Jadi kita buat alternate lah, dan kita akan menggunakan sepenuhnya goal kita. Okay. Untuk hari ini kita just nak buat some revision lah dengan apa yang kita belajar sebelum ni. Okay. And saya mohon keizinan untuk speak in English sebab kita ada international students kan. Alright. So alright, so for today, we are going to do a revision on what we have learned for 5 weeks already. So we have done 4 weeks of lecture face-to-face and 1 week through WhatsApp. If you still remember, we talked about anxiety through WhatsApp, and I entertained more than 2 hours in discussing about that particular topic. Okay, so for today, before we want to start revising, is there anyone want to say anything so that I don't feel like I am talking alone? Okay, so if you want to say anything, you just unmute yourself, and then maybe you want to say something to me before we start with our revision. Okay. Anyone want to say anything? Hi, ke? I love you too.
Hi, Doktor.
Hi.
Hai doktor.
Hai, Doktor. Hai, saya.
Selamat puasa, Doktor.
Hai doktor, love you doktor.
Selamat berpuasa doktor.
Selamat berbuka dah.
Belum. Bawa ke Zohor.
Hai, Doktor. Makan pagi tadi lah. Okay, semua berada dekat rumah masing-masing, Doktor. Ada yang saya tahu masih lagi dekat Nilai, dekat asrama, dekat rumah sewa.
Saya kat rumah sewa doktor.
Okay, jadi ada perancangan untuk balik juga kan? Slowly.
Ada.
Okay, tapi semua dalam keadaan sihat ya?
Alhamdulillah doktor sihat.
Alhamdulillah sihat. Okay, kalau kau ada masalah apa-apa, share dulu dengan saya. Jangan share dengan social media. Okay, doktor. Sebab sekarang ada banyak isu mental health, jadi share dulu dengan saya. Saya boleh sama-sama share.
Okay, doktor.
Okay, so saya rasa dah lebih daripada 60 orang kan. Mungkin dalam 20 orang ada masalah teknikal ataupun ada masalah kesihatan atau ada masalah peribadi, perlu ada komitmen lain. Tapi tak apa, after 1 hour session ni, if you want to have more discussion in WhatsApp, I am free to entertain you all. So don't worry, dalam tempoh PKP walaupun cuti semester, I will entertain all the questions that you have in your mind in the WhatsApp group. Okay, I will not leave the group. Okay?
Okay, doktor.
Alright, so sekarang semua boleh mute lah ya, sebab saya nak buat revision tentang apa yang kita dah belajar. Okay? Okay. Alright. Okay, so basically, we have learned a few topics on abnormal psychology. Okay, this is one example of mind mapping that one of my student did like 2 years or 4 years ago. She was an alumni, and she still keep all the mind map for my classes. So basically, all my classes that she enroll, she will draw a mind map and she will give me a copy. So I really appreciate for those who have the skill to come up with mind map. You can always provide yourself a mind map of your own to do revision. Okay, so today we are going to talk about how to conceptualize abnormal psychology. But before that, I just want to revise the definition of abnormal psychology. Okay, so basically, when you understand what is abnormal psychology, or sometimes we call it psychological disorder, it must have three defining criteria. The first one is psychological disorder is referring to any breakdown in terms of our cognitive, in terms of our emotion, or in terms of our action, behavioral functioning. So it does not mean that we must have all that three functioning to be breakdown. At least one of the aspect that is breakdown can already lead to functioning or lead to psychological disorder. So basically, the definition of psychological disorder must have the first one, breakdown in terms of your cognitive, emotion, or behavioral functioning. That is the first criterion. Okay. The second criterion for abnormal psychology or psychological disorder is that all these three functioning, okay, must cause you distress or feeling stress, okay, feeling discomfort or feeling inconvenient for you to fulfill your daily life. So it affects your daily functioning. That is the second criteria. So the third criteria is that you must have a psychological dysfunction that affect your daily functioning, and it must be not accepted by your culture or social norm. So basically, when people ask you what is psychological disorder, psychological disorder must have these three criterion. Let me read it out loud. Okay. Psychological disorder refers to psychological dysfunction, which is breakdown in your cognitive, emotion, or behavioral functioning that is associated with the feeling of distress or uncomfortable, which affect your daily functioning, and it must be not accepted by the cultural or social norms. Okay, now after I give these three criterion of psychological disorder, did you understand? Kalau understand, just bagi thumbs up. Boleh tak? Alright. So dapat 2-3 orang faham pun jadilah. Sebab nanti yang faham ni akan ajar kawan-kawan yang tak faham. So basically, when you have someone coming to you with certain problem, you must look at these three criteria. Kalau dia ada breakdown in terms of emotion, tapi dia tak affect dia punya daily functioning, and then cultural or society also do not have problem with the behavior or the dysfunctioning, that you cannot consider that person has a psychological disorder. For example here, people who are transgender, in a certain culture, the behavior of changing dia punya gender identity or sexual identity is normal and is accepted. So we cannot refer people with transgender issue as having psychological disorder. Okay? Faham eh? Did you get that eh? Alright. So that 3 criteria is very important because sometimes students always ask me, kalau dia ada, if this person has this problem, if this person has this problem, is it considered as a disorder? So we cannot just label or we cannot jump into conclusion indicating that this person has a certain disorder. So we must look at the condition, whether that person fit the criteria of these 3 criteria that I have mentioned. Okay, clear? Jaafar, zoomkan lagi dekat. Okay, now after we understand what is psychological disorder, sometimes you always ask, kenapa dia jadi macam tu? Why that person has that kind of disorder? What caused the person to have certain psychological disorder? So in what we have studied, we studied about conceptualizing abnormal psychology, meaning that we are trying to understand why a person can have certain disorder. What are the reasons? What are the factors? What contributes to the condition of that person to have a psychological disorder? Okay, so saya buka dulu sebelum saya pergi dekat conceptualizing. Anyone want to ask a question before we go to conceptualizing? Hi Yusuf. Assalamualaikum. How are you, Yusuf?
Waalaikumsalam.
Where are you now?
I'm at Angry Court.
Angry Court. Are you okay? Feeling well?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, I'm okay.
Alhamdulillah. Do you have any question before we go further to conceptualizing abnormal psychology?
No, I don't have question yet.
Okay, so you are clear about the definition, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. The rest, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Doctor.
Okay.
Which
Okay,
page?
now. Okay, now. Okay.
I want to ask you which page?
We are actually looking at the screen now. This screen is actually a mind map of our chapter. If I'm not mistaken, this is our 3rd chapter, looking into how we want to understand the reason or the factors of someone can have certain psychological condition. Okay, Jaafar, someone requested for you to zoomkan sikit that mind map. Is that okay, Jaafar? Okay, it's okay. You can actually upload, everyone can upload this document because I've already put it in the files in our team. Okay, nice. All right. So before we look into conceptualizing, I mean the integrated approach. Integrated approach means we look at different dimension in understanding why a person has a psychological issues. Okay, so different dimension meaning that we look at different perspective. Okay, we look at different causes before we want to jump into conclusion. This person has disorder because of that one particular factor. So basically, there are many factors that we need to consider before we jump into conclusion about the factor or things that factors or influencing factor that contribute to the person's psychological disorder. So before we look into the integrated approach, we also study about the historical approach in understanding. So in the historical approach, there are many traditional views about why a person has a disorder. For example, the traditional view of voodoo, witchcraft, and then the traditional approach of biological understanding of the consistency of fluid in our body, the blood, the consistency of blood in our body according to Galen and siapa tu namanya? Galen and siapa? Do you remember the other one person's name? It's okay, but basically they come up with the 4 types of blood or fluidity in our body. Okay, so that is the traditional approach. Even psychological approach only focus on psychodynamic